Today's workout is an 18-minute mobility and functional movement flow. I'm sure you've heard the term mobility and functional movement. Typically on Fridays, I put out a yoga video, which yoga focuses on strengthening and flexibility. There are some mobility movements in yoga, but flexibility, right, is the ability of your muscles to lengthen. Whereas mobility training is working on the range of motion in your joints and strengthening the surrounding muscles, which increases performance and decreases the risk of injury. And then functional movement is movement patterns in exercise that mimic movement patterns that we use in real life. So this workout isn't necessarily a super hardcore strength or pounding HIIT workout, but it is every bit as much as important for you as those types of workouts are as well. Enough talking. I will put some more information below in the description that you can read if you're interested in learning more about this. The way that this is going to work is we're going to start out with a bilateral movement, which means we're working both sides of the body at the same time. And then we're going to split that into a right side and a left side movement. And then we'll move on. So we'll do each exercise only one time. We have 6 of those types of circuits, so there are 18 exercises total. We're going to work for 40 seconds and we'll have 10 seconds to safely transition into the next move. I am wearing shoes because I desperately need a pedicure, but you do not need to wear shoes for this. It is body weight. Pedicure is on my to-do list in case you were wondering what I was doing with the rest of my day today. Go ahead and roll out your mat. Make sure that you have some space around you. If you like to play music in your classes, go ahead and get that music started now. I am going to hit the timer. We have 5 seconds until you're going to hear a bell, and we're just going to start with a march in place. So opposite knee and opposite elbow. So a march in place is similar to walking, running, even swimming, in that we kick one leg at a time, right? Actually, you're kicking both legs at a time in swimming. Don't ask me about swimming. I have swimmers in my family. They would know more about that than me. But many, many movements in life mimic this march in place. So core is engaged. Pull your low abs in, and then think about drawing your knee up above the line of your hips. So now we're going to do that on one side. So I'm going to drive my right knee and my left elbow up at the same time while I balance on my left foot. It's kind of like rubbing your head and patting your stomach at the same time. So really squeezing the glute on that supporting left leg. We're working the hip flexor on the right, which is the muscles that allow us to lift our knee. Those are our hip flexors. So very important for running, for doing burpees, for lifting weights, deadlifting, squatting. So super important. And they tend to get very tight when we sit a lot. All right, we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So grounding the right leg, give the glute a squeeze, lift the kneecap by squeezing the quadricep. If you could lift the skin on the shin of that right leg, you would be lifting it. So the bottom of that foot is pressing into your mat and everything else is lifting actively away. Exhaling as you do the work and inhaling as you control the lowering of the leg. I'm having issues with words today, all day. Okay, so that was the first 3 exercises. Now we're going to come into an air squat. So feet a little wider than hip width apart, toes out at 11 and 1, and squeeze to come up. So we do a lot of squatting in life, right? We drop something on the floor, we need to bend down and pick it up. Even sometimes to put your shoes on, you squat down. So keep your waist lengthening out of your hips. Your chest is lifting up towards the ceiling. No hunching in of the shoulders. We do that all day, sitting in front of a phone, sitting in front of a computer, sitting in front of a steering wheel. And then exhale right before you start to come up. Okay, so now I'm going to balance on my left leg, and I'm going to do a hip car with my right hip. So here is the mobility. Opening out and then closing. So think about opening the door as you externally rotate, and then closing the door as you internally rotate. So working on mobility in that ball and socket joint. And you can hold onto a wall or a chair here. There's no reason not to, since we're focusing on the opening and closing. Also kind of like you're stepping up and over a hurdle. I don't know, like you're jumping a low fence of some sort. Okay, now we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So get that right leg active and ready. Low abs, pull in, front ribs knit in. So opening the door and closing the door. Opening and closing. And focus on slow and steady. Don't rush it. Side is harder for me than the other side. And your hands can be on your hips, or like I said, they can be holding on to something. You could even bring your hands behind your head. Inhaling to open, exhaling to close. All right, so now we're going to work on some shoulder and upper body work. So we're going to start, I don't really know the name for this move here. We're going to start with our arms up like we're in a streamlined position in swimming. We're going to pull our elbows down to shoulder height, cactus elbows, and then we're going to rotate our palms back behind us as our fingertips reach down towards the floor. Then rotate through the shoulders, the rotator cuff, cactus arms, and then streamline the palms up above, and then repeat. Exhale, elbows shoulder height, and then inhale as you rotate your palms back behind you. So we're not getting in a lot of reps here, we're just working on that mobility. All right, so now we're actually going to come into some swimmers. So swimming, arms forward, palms forward. Again, working on range of motion and mobility in the shoulder. We're also working on some core strength here. So pressing those palms back and then circling them up and around. So I have a little tiny slight bend in my knees here. And I'm not like wildly rotating from side to side, it's very controlled. So my obliques, those muscles that run along my side body, are definitely turned on. Okay, so now I'm going to do that in the opposite direction, so like a back stroke. So bringing the hand up and back. And again, I am rotating through my torso, but I'm not wildly rotating from side to side. So this probably feels really good if you do a lot of heavy upper body lifting, burpees. This helps to open up the front of the chest. So my shoulder blades are snuggling down in towards one another. And then after this move, we're going to go down onto our mat on our hands and knees in a tabletop pose. And we're going to press our palms into the mat underneath our shoulders, tuck your toes, drop your shoulders, and we're in a hovering table or a hovering bear. You want the eyes of your elbows rotating forward. So a diagonal line from the left corner of your mat to the right eye of your elbow, and then the same from the right corner of the mat to the left eye of the elbow. Drop those shoulders down away from their sockets. Knees are hovering about 1 inch off the mat. And if you need to come down, and then get right back up in it. Pull your belly button back towards your spine so your quads are working, your core is working. Woo! Anti-rotation there, so not wavering from side to side. And we're going to work more anti-rotation with a dead bug. A single side, so extend your left arm and your right leg, and then draw elbow to knee, knee to elbow without wobbling all over the mat. So I want you to think about moving through mud. What would moving through maybe peanut butter feel like? So as I extend the leg behind me, my toes are flexed back towards my knee, and I'm pressing through my heel, which turns on the back of that leg and my glute. So again, keep your head in line with your neck, in line with the rest of your spine by gazing slightly in front of you. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So extending the right arm with the thumb up like you're going to shake someone's hand. Press through that left heel. Exhale, left knee, right elbow without wiggle wobble, opening up to the side. So a lot of core activation here. Also spinal muscles are working here to keep us from rotating side to side. Those muscles are so important for posture. After this, we're going to come down onto our backs. All right, so we're going to come down onto our back for a dead bug press and hold. So bend your knees, stack them over your hips, tabletop with your shins. Bring your palms to your knees and press your knees back into your palms as you press your knees away. Your core should be fired up. Check in with the back of your neck and your shoulders. Make sure that they're relaxed and that they're on the mat. So a lot more deep core here. This will be our last on the mat set. Then we're going to come back up for some more standing exercises. So at the bell, we're going to bring our right hand to our left shin. And just like we did in that bird dog, we're going to extend the left arm and the right leg to hover. And then as we exhale, we're going to bring the left fingertips above the shoulder and the right knee above the hip. Inhaling as you lengthen and exhaling to contract. And actually you can start that exhale just before you bring the hand and the leg back up. All right, on an inhale, extend the left leg and the right arm and continue pressing the right knee and the left palm into each other. So starting the inhale even before we begin the movement really engages the pelvic floor and deep core muscles, which help us lift the arm and the leg. Also, again, the hip flexor is working. And then we are working on some mobility in the hip joint and in the shoulder joint. Okay, so carefully make your way up to standing, and we're going to come into lateral squats. So feet are wider than hip width distance apart. All 10 toes face forward, and we're gonna hinge and squat back into one leg, and then come back through center and into the other. So think about like you're trying to sit back into a tiny little chair on that one side. Keep your chest lifted. And then at the bell, we're going to take this into lateral lunges, which is the same hinge squat movement, but we start down at one end of the mat and then we move. So I'm down at the left end of my mat. I'm going to take a big step out with my right leg. My left leg stays straight and my right knee bends. So my hips are drawing way back and my chest is lengthening forward. So my gaze is up the entire time. I'm not looking down at the mat, I'm looking directly out in front of me. And you could add opposite hand to opposite foot here for a little bit more core activation. All right, so now I'm going to step down to the right end of my mat, and it's going to be my left leg that takes that big step out, and I'm going to bend into that left knee. So shoulders down and back into their sockets. And then again, you can bring that right hand to the left toes, but keep your chest and your gaze forward. Then we're going to come down onto the mat for one last tri-set of exercises. We're going to do spider lunges. So what that is you're starting in a plank pose. Shoulders over wrists, all 10 fingers spread wide, press through the heels, squeeze the butt, left foot to the outside of the left hand, right foot to the outside of the right hand. And keep the lengthened leg super active, like you're lifting the back of that leg up towards the ceiling, but don't pike your butt up towards the ceiling. Keep your butt in line with your shoulders. Also don't let the fronts of your hips sag down. So it's a lot of pressing away with the hands into the mat. And this is a nice stretch for those hip flexors. Okay, so now we're going to come into the world's greatest stretch. We're going to step the right foot to the outside of the right hand, and you can have that back left knee lifted, or you can surrender it down to the mat. And we're going to work on some spinal rotation here. So the right elbow comes down to the mat, the right thumb comes to the front of the right shoulder as that right elbow peels up, and then open into the hand, bring the thumb back to the shoulder, and bring the elbow back down to the mat. It's okay if your elbow doesn't touch the mat. Just work your elbow in the direction of the mat. So saved the best for last. This is the best stretch in my opinion. Okay, so come back up into that plank, step the right foot back, and then step the left foot to the outside of the left hand, and you can stay up on the back toes, or you can surrender the knee down. So left elbow to the mat, left thumb to guide that shoulder open, snuggle those shoulder blades in towards one another, and then reach the fingertips up. Exhaling as you twist, and inhaling as you lower with control. And the entire time, I want you to think about lengthening your sternum, your chest forward, lengthening your waist out of your hips. All right. So So I am going to come back through a downward facing dog and then walk my feet slowly up to my hands to come up. And that was your 18 minutes of mobility and functional training. Thank you for joining me. I'd love to hear what you thought about this flow. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, and I will see you back here soon, friends. Thank you for working out with me.